All right, today we're gabbing with Amy Phillips, host of the excellent Drama Darling podcast, which I was just on. I had the pleasure of being a guest on a Southern Charm premiere recap episode. Amy is a longtime Bravo staple. She is the best Bravo impersonator, impressionist there is, and she's just the best. And we've been trying to do this for a while, so I'm glad we could finally do this. Amy, thanks for being here. How are you?
It's a delight. It's a pleasure. And I'm excited to like wrap up the year with you, especially because you and we dissect like the episodes and we really get in there. We are surgeons of Bravo. And so it's nice to do a little broad strokes on more of the, bird's eye view of things and stuff. So I'm super excited to do this. And
yeah, I know.
So thanks for having me.
Of course. And I was thinking about this year in Bravo. And I've mentioned it on my show before, but I feel like there were a couple years there where like the new additions to the shows weren't super exciting to me, at least. Sort of like you think about, Jen Armstrong and Noella in Orange County. Like that wasn't necessarily the most exciting addition. Like Summer House has had kind of a tough time getting new guys kind of to really stay in the mix and be exciting. Like across the board, I think there's been some ups and downs, but this year felt like a year where like, okay, most shows added some great people to the mix.
I don't know if it's like an astrological thing because that's not really my cup of tea, but it feels like something shifted in the universe or we've entered another dimension because like it's a bit of an embarrassment of riches when you turn on these shows and you're like, how is this person acting like a fifth season housewife?
Yeah. When you said that, Amy, does somebody in your mind like?
Of course, yes. Bronwin.
Yeah,
Bronwin.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that who you were thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking you were going to say that.
Yeah. But also even on the other shows that I know we're going to get to.
Yeah.
But just plenty of people bringing it to the table, and it's not all forced, which I appreciate
Completely. All right, so Amy, we're gonna start with the non-housewives. So let's front load with the quote unquote younger shows.
Okay.
And I think there's this duo that it's hard not to be excited by sort of what's to come with them. I think in the future, and that is Jess and Wes, Jess and Wesley. I always say that.
You just
I
call
always
him
say
Jess.
that, Amy.
It's like Ramon
Jesse and West on Summer House. To me, it sort of unlocked this idea of like, oh, maybe the key for adding new guys to Summer House was to do two at once. To not have sort of a Lone Ranger coming in. But they were this exciting duo that like they were kind of Carl and Kyle Jr. They both came in single and ready to mingle. They brought different things to the table.
That is so brilliant.
Thoughts on that?
Well, I just didn't think of it as them coming in as a duo, but of course they did because were they friends beforehand?
No, I don't think they knew each other. Because also remember Wes came in first, and then Jesse. It was either like the next weekend or Wes had like 2 nights without him or something. So, but they were fast. They sort of bonded over this experience together. Okay. Now they're like best friends.
Well, when you said that, like bringing in people as a duo, and in this case, they didn't know each other, but this duo was like successfully they successfully blended. But it actually is a great idea that I think you accidentally stumbled on to bring in 2 people to Summer House who already know each other. Right. Because then they're wrought for their own drama down the line by being on a show together and having that. I mean, I think that would be a great idea. I think people should start submitting themselves as besties to these shows.
Honestly, because especially because when you add the show to the mix, it obviously is a huge complicating factor to a friendship that they have not dealt with before. Yes.
Right. And that immediately gives them power and status in a house where they don't have any and they're not just singled out and they have to like immerse themselves. At least they can be their own little thing. I don't know. I kind of really like that idea. I think they should do it for some women.
I would love that.
So, but the Jess, and I'm just going to call him Jess.
Jessie.
They're amazing. Like I've never seen anyone on a show get like a New York Times spread as best newcomer. Wow. So when that happened to West, I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like this guy's making that big of a splash. I mean, people over there obviously were like seriously crushing hard. I get it. But to see that spread come out and that picture, I was like, it looks so sophisticated and And this is a guy who is no Jesse. You know, he can't put together a song, write a song, and deliver it. He's not fighting cancer. He doesn't have the depths of soul in which Jesse does. Yet he gets the spread. He can't even put together a full thought out sentence under panic. You know what I mean? However, despite all that, he's so funny and he has such a fun vibe and he's a guy's guy, but it was a fast uphill, and boy, did he crash down at that reunion. Oh, mamma mia.
It's like, it was so interesting because I feel like usually the crash down happens in the second season. You know, you get built up in this first season and then
or third.
Right. It's like it happened all within a 2-week span as a viewership where it was like, oh, he's fucking over Sierra. And we've gotten to a point where Sierra's our girl. Yeah. And he completely fumbled the bag at the reunion. It was such an interesting arc to see it play out. And Wes is still like, he's fine. Like there's enough people still crushing on him and he's still very much going to, I think, remain sort of kind of in the hearts of a lot of fans. But you know, it's more complicated for him now than it kind of felt like it might be, you know?
Yeah, he can't get away with just the cutesy Zach Galifianakis shtick that he's bringing to us that we happen to like. Yes. But then at the end of the day, he's bringing up excuses just like any old schmo that we've all experienced in our lives that's like, too little, too late. And I guess I should have just said I didn't really know. I fully take, I'm not sure if it's like, oh my God. And Sierra, even at the reunion, was like, well, he'd have to make a lot of big changes. And I remember Jesse's like, so you're telling me there's a chance? and I was like, oh my gosh, Sierra. And I thought he was probably like, shit, I thought that I did a good job at sabotaging this because at the end of the day, I saw him for someone who was using her for the show. Yeah. Did you?
Totally. Yeah. I thought that was a big element of it. Yeah. And I think that and I feel like he maybe, I don't remember specifics, but I feel like he sort of alluded to, or either she alluded to it or he did, where it was sort of like, there was this feeling of like, one way to cement your place on the show is to get into a showmance. And it's sort of like, on the one hand, you're like, okay, Sierra's like been around in this environment for a while. So like there's a reason why she had her guard up, but he just like, he was able to take it down. And that makes it hurt even more, you know?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think I'm glad you brought up what would Jesse Solomon do, the song, because it's kind of one of my favorite Bravo moments of the year. Like it was so.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you.
For him to do that as a first season male cast member it was epic. And
it was.
They've leaned in, both of them, in a way that just like, it makes me feel like they're in this for the long haul. And I'm excited to see sort of what's to come from them. You know?
When he started singing that song, I was so nervous because I was like, oh my God.
I know.
Oh my God. This could go so bad.
So corny.
This could go so bad. And he's so great. And I do not want him to like fall. And then the fact that it just got better. And then it just got better. And then it was like a Sweet Caroline sing-along and has now become pretty legendary. And then to see his journey and for him to be so vulnerable and open and a young man, you really don't see that often on these shows on Bravo, where people who are young men are sharing their journeys that are so personal. And I really respect him for that. I love him for that. So the end, it should have been Jesse that got that.
And listen, maybe it's in his future. So we'll see. I think there's a lot more to come for these two on our screen. So they were good additions to the Bravoverse.
Solid. Yes. Unexpected, totally solid and unexpected, and what just a delight.
Yeah. And last thing that I'll say about that before we move on is like they did it in a season that was supposed to be all about Lindsay and Carl. And it was this huge thing, and that season was about that. But like, I think because they were around, they added depth and different things happening
too. So, depth and levity.
Yeah, and so I think it was important for them to be there and at the same time. So
it was like a whole other layer, and they were so great for that.
All right, next on our list is the Valley cast. So obviously they're not all new. We knew Kristen, we knew Jax, we knew Brittany, but we had a lot of new faces added to our world. Nia and Danny, Janet and Jason, Michelle and Jesse, Zach and Jasmine, Luke, all the Valley characters.
His reptile, or what is it that he had? Luke had like something in the tank.
Something that I
wouldn't
have. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, something I would have. I think it was maybe a frog or a turtle. I don't know. Anyway.
So I guess I'll ask you first. Were you surprised at like the level at which you got attached and invested in these people's lives?
Yeah. I couldn't believe that by the end, Kristen wasn't even on the fucking cast trip. Excuse my language.
No,
I was like,
let it fly. Let it fly.
I was like, this is ridiculous. Yes. I mean, Janet icing out Dodie. How dare you? You would not be here without Dodie. Yeah. And yet it was kind of funny. Yeah. And yet at the same time, I was kind of like, they don't even need Dodie on this trip. Like, that's how well this show is doing and how great everyone, their authentic drama. I mean, Janet does really mix it up, and she is a messy biatch.
She's a good villain.
But yeah, she's a great villain. That's the perfect way to say it. So I would say that was crazy, seeing how a pregnant woman can just be so left alone. Yeah, right? Yeah, still in the mix, left alone. And by the way, I'm very excited to see how Kristen Dodie will handle being pregnant and, perhaps giving Janet her just desserts and having her get away at Lake Arrowhead and not invite Janet.
Listen, it's being served up on a silver platter, the opportunity. So we'll see.
It has to. I wonder if she'll go that basic, but yeah. So like you said, the non-pump rules people were phenomenal. So Jesse,
Michelle and Jesse, like I feel like they're one of the two couples that split during filming, and like I was invested in that, and I felt I had opinions on it, and you know what I mean. It's like I didn't expect this from the Valley, and Jesse and Michelle are messy.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. And you kind of look at them both and you go, you're both very toxic. Jesse is completely unhinged. The fact that we ended this journey with him like going off and doing ayahuasca and coming back and like grabbing her face like he was that close talker. He's like, I want to change. That was really disturbing. And then of course, like that against the Britney and Jack stuff.
Yeah.
Was just a huge storyline. It eclipsed their storyline for the most part, because we've only had one season. So, and when you think about it, doesn't it feel like we've had at least 2 seasons of The Valley?
Oh yeah, a lot happened. So much happened on that season, on that first season. Sort of like when it ended, you were just like, wait, I want to keep going. I want to keep following this, because it was just getting going almost. I don't know.
And then in real time, then it was like the Jackson Britney breakup. So that's all, obviously we're going to see that, but but to have Jesse and then Danny,
Nia and Danny too. Yeah, Nia and Danny.
Yeah. By the way, I live in Santa Clarita.
Okay.
So I always got such a kick out of like the little like, where is that? I'm like, we're up here. We're up here. But he is so right. I know. I'm like, please come up here. It's amazing. But like he is right. I mean, the fact that you can get so much more up in Santa Clarita than you could obviously down there. But even there, really heartfelt, her postpartum. Yeah. Him breaking down and the pressures of being a working father and having twins. That to me is a huge journey in and of itself. And quite frankly, we didn't even have time to even get totally into it.
Yeah, I think with them, it's interesting because like you said, there's so many elements there. We have really not gotten very deep with them. And then if you remember, like on that cast trip that Kristen was not invited to, there were a couple of moments like at that dinner table where like you kind of got some insight into like, because I think for a while they were sort of presenting this like very perfect mutually supportive couple.
Yeah.
Dinner, some of those scenes, like there were like some hints at like, oh, it's a little bit more complicated, this dynamic, and I hope they explore that in season 2.
Yeah, I do too. That hallway fight scene at the end of the season.
Oh yeah.
Zach was a star. Jesse coming down and like, what a horrific monster he was, just like barreling down there. And then Kristen just walking off to the elevator and then spilling all this tea.
Heaven.
Jasmine was extremely smart. Very, not necessarily strategic, but clever enough to know that she wasn't going to fall for Janet's shit and she wasn't going to fall for Jax's shit. And I loved that.
Me too.
So that was, again, another strong player. And I'm excited to explore more of her story because, again, got buried in all the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then lastly, there's Luke, who is kind of an enigma of a man. And I believe it seems like now he lives in LA. So hopefully he has packed up his stuff in Colorado and you hauled on over to the Valley.
I mean, for now, I guess. But why is every guy who's like on Bravo that lives in a cabin in the woods named Luke that wants to make
Honestly, syrup? Yeah, the syrup line is coming. It should be called Luke 2. They should do a collaboration. Yeah. Wow. Yes.
I miss Luke and his syrup on Summer House.
I know. He was pretty good.
Or Winter House.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Valley. We can talk quickly about Southern Charm. We've only had 2 episodes, so I don't think it's not much to say, but I will say I'm getting very, very good vibes from Molly. I'm into her. Wow. She seems pretty good at this. Like she's ingrained in the group already. She's funny. I like her.
I love her. I was so pissed off at Whitney with
the comment about
highlights
the
in his hair.
Oh my God. The hair is a call for help. Cry for help.
The hair, I think you're right. That was alarming.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And I wonder if Madison did it. Do you think?
She must have sabotaged it if she did that. So
yeah. Whitney, just look the other way. I'm going to do something. Patricia really needs to step up to the plate and get Molly's back on this one, at least in the next episode. When
I'd love to see that.
That would be nice to see her come to take a risk for the younger generation and see that she's with it enough to know you can't body shame a woman. You shouldn't body shame anybody. But that comment was so incredibly hurtful, and she's laughing it off. But the only thing I'm worried about with Molly is that I'm afraid that she seems so great, and I'm afraid that her storyline is going to be about so much of, body image, and it's going to be so forward facing and it makes so much sense. And I hope it goes in the right direction, because the way that she was explaining to Shep, it's almost like she felt like she needed to explain to him, I gained all this weight and now I have to lose all this weight. So I hope that we can see her journey in a positive way where it's like she gets to the point where she's like, that doesn't matter. Because I really don't want her to be put into a corner where that's all that she talks about, because I think that she has a lot more to give, and I don't want her to be wasting any time with Whitney. However, I will say this, not enough time was spent on the cupcake sandwich. I've never seen that before.
Okay, so my brother Tucker told me about that. He does that.
No way.
No, I've seen it before. I've done it before because he exposed me to the genius of it. Yes.
Wow.
So
it's so smart.
Yeah. So when you try, I think you should update everybody for the first time whenever you decide to do a cupcake sandwich. Thank you.
I think maybe I'll make cupcakes for Christmas and bring them. Perfect. Just so I can do that.
Perfect. Go live on Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, go live.
No, but I agree about the Molly thing. I hadn't thought about sort of where that's maybe going. And I agree that especially on a show like Southern Charm in a city like Charleston, it's I hope we do this right. I hope we treat this and put it in the right direction. Because she seems like a thoroughly modern woman, and she seems like she's pushing back on Whitney, but then he doubles down on it and she sort of laughs it off. You know what I mean? So
right. She's got to have a conversation with him. So I'm fine with that storyline. I just don't want it to pigeonhole her, and I just want it to go into the right direction, and I don't want them to all just be idiots about it, please.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, Amy, time for Housewives.
Okay.
We're going to start with someone who I really found very promising. She helped the show, but ultimately Dubai got canceled after 2 seasons. And, put on pause is the terminology we're using.
Oh, gosh.
Talene Marie, I believe is what we call her. I actually thought that she was pretty great at being on Housewives. I thought that she was it's a classic example of somebody brings you in and then that friendship falls apart because the new person jumps to the other side. It's happened 5 times this year.
Yeah.
But I really liked Talene. I really did.
Loved Talene.
Yeah.
Loved her. At first I was a little weary as you should be with all housewives, because you're like, no, only because there was the rumor that she had been trying to get on the show and trying to get on the show. But then it turns out that that might not be the case, and at least from another perspective. So I do feel like she brought so much charisma, a lot of passion, fashion, and that apartment that they live in. I wouldn't want to live there. I wouldn't want to live in Dubai and most of those places. It just looks so uncomfortable.
So sterile. Like it is so, yeah.
That's exactly it. I was like, I can't be there. I got to get out of here.
No.
So the house, no. But I mean, pretty interesting, her life and the move, and that she was a performer and a singer, amazing singer. So yeah, I really like her. It is a bummer.
It's a bummer.
Total bummer.
Yeah. It just sucks when a good person joins a show and it's just bad timing.
I know.
So.
And it's like, it's too little too late. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Exactly.
They had their chance.
Exactly.
Shit.
All right. Next
gonna come back.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you?
No, because I feel like if London's coming.
Yeah. And Dubai's expensive. Dubai feels like it's probably expensive to produce too. Because to fly the crew out there all the time, to fly the women to watch what happens live all the time. It's a lot.
You know what? Also, because they have to answer to, I think, the Dubai government. Like, I think they have to work within a certain parameter.
I think you're right. And
that is difficult to tell stories.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Next on our is Katie from OC. So Katie, I always liked like her energy and sort of her personality, but I was a little bit hesitant about her just because she came in so strong about the Heather paparazzi stuff. And that was so much of what we heard and knew about her for like the first 5 or 6 episodes. I feel like it was a while, like we were getting kind of breadcrumb with her story, but it wasn't until sort of halfway through the season when her friendship with Jen Perdonti really developed. And we started to hear a lot more about her story with her daughter, with her birth mother, with everything that happened with her ex and living in Atlanta and her son living with the ex. There were a lot of threads to pull on, and it became a lot more layered and interesting to me. And she started being a little bit less intimidated by Heather. We talked a little bit less about the paparazzi thing. So I ended up really kind of doing a 180 on Katie in a positive way, but it took me a minute to get there.
I completely agree. She had an agenda coming in and she knew she needed to hammer in on something. And it was Heather, and that's where she went. And it was too bad because it feels like they would get along really well. So that was a bummer. But she knew better to not go for Tamra or Shannon. And I mean, what are you going to do? Because Gina brought her in. What is she going to do? Go for Gina's best friend, Emily? Right. So Heather was really the last housewife standing. So I feel like that's maybe why she picked her. And then she also got that random information. So she had something to bring. But she seemed like a housewife that came in and got in way over her head. She did not think it was going to get that bad. She didn't mean for it to. So I understand that she didn't think it was going to get that out of control. But it will, because if you keep hitting in one spot, it will. And she didn't know that. So I feel like she was out of her comfort zone. She was out of her league, and she made bad choices. So that being said, all housewives deserve a second season unless they're, like Dr. Jen, who's pretty snoozy.
That was snooze fest. Yes.
It was a total snooze fest. So I feel like she should come back for another season. And I mean, I think her story is super interesting. I would really like to know more about what happened with the rumors, and all the stuff that came out in the articles that they were calling her out on, that they discussed at the reunion. That's people think that she's lying. So now I kind of want to dig more into, well, what is going on there? And is it possible that she's lying about stuff? Is it that these women are really hounding her, which is what it appeared to look like? So I'd like to see more of that. But yeah, she didn't
strike me as an overt liar at the reunion. It felt like maybe she was telling maybe a more convenient version of what happened, or leaving some things out. I don't know, for the sake of whether it's for the sake of TV or for brevity or for whatever it is. But she didn't strike me as somebody who was just flat out lying about those stories. I think it was just sort of and also them bringing some of those things up, honestly, to me felt a little bit like icky and besides the point. Like, why are we digging some of this up right now? You know, like do it next season. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it felt kind of, they were really piling on her. And honestly, historically, when that happens, I think people tend to like start to feel for that person who's being piled on. So it's sort of like, I'm so curious.
Kind of worked to her advantage, actually, because honestly, it did make me like her more.
No, I agree with you. And like, I'm so curious how they're going to come into next season, because it's like, are we going to get a lot more of like Heather versus Katie, but like beyond paparazzi gate, because they just don't really like each other right at this point. Like, or is it going to be, I mean, Emily was coming for Katie a lot too. So I'm just so curious, sort of. And that's a good thing for me to be curious about what the dynamic's going to be. I think that bodes well. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Let's go with Raquel on New York. So Raquel, to me, like, she's the one on New York right now. And this is not even to be shady. It's meant to like be positive about her. I like watching her the most. Like, I find her the most authentic. I find her to be really interesting. I love her relationship with Mel. She has an interesting story. She's cool. She's smart. She checks like so many boxes. I'm really liking her. She has not proven to me that she's a great, like, you know, housewife in terms of like the sparring and the arguing yet, but like, I like watching her, you know?
Yeah, but she hasn't been given much to respond to anyway.
No, she hasn't.
She's responding in the perfect way for what she's given, which is, this is making me not trust Aaron. Well, this was making me not trust Brynn, but now I probably should not be trusting Aaron. Is that what I'm seeing here? She's kind of like, hello, am I alone in this fucking place?
She's like, I'm the only normal person here.
Hello. So yes, I think that she is trying. That was nice to see that she was like, I need to call this out because I don't know who's what and why did you do this? And it felt like at the end of the day, she still didn't get, she wasn't satisfied, as neither were we, because Aaron still wasn't saying to her what she wanted her to say. And so, but you know what I loved about that is that Raquel was like, okay, I see we're not going to be getting anywhere. Like, she kind of had to resign herself to like, I just have to move on.
Yeah.
So she sort of very subtly proved herself to, you know, be able to handle whatever can come her way. And in the meantime, as you're right, like completely one of the most fascinating stories. And we haven't like, so next week, or this week, we're in Puerto Rico, and she's gonna meet up with her mom, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be really wild.
Yeah,
and the Mel thing, and like her being in fashion, and like the ex-husband, and it being all over the papers and all this stuff. And it's also like such a world that I am not tuned into at all. That I was like, it's so wild to hear in these different zeitgeists that things blow up and are such a big deal. Like in the art world, they were like, we cannot accept art from Raquel, and it was like
wild.
I had no idea that was going on in my life. You know, I'm up in Santa Clarita. I don't know. Love her.
Yeah, I really adore her. All right, Beverly Hills, fairly early into the season, but we have Bose and we have Jennifer Tilly. Jennifer Tilly, I feel like she's just kind of bringing like a slightly different version of what Kathy Hilton brings to the group, which is like kooky, fun, like, you know, comedic relief to the group. And so far, at least, that's sort of what I'm getting from her. Maybe more like voice of the people than Kathy is, but I'm liking Jennifer.
I love Jennifer. I couldn't believe when I found out Sutton and Jennifer were friends all those years ago. I was just like, wow, these are two very eclectic, very quirky women. And they're just like bopping around town, drinking champagne and trying on clothes and buying Louis boats purses.
Spending funny money. Oh my God, the boat
purse was sick. She was like, so I brought this boat. It's my favorite purse. I love her. I love the fact that she's like now entered from Hollywood into our world and is just so well known. Also, it seems to be in the past maybe naive towards relationships. So she's so relatable. You know, she's just every person. Like you said, she's like us. So to hear her be like, has anybody seen a crooked dick? And just like, yeah, I was taken advantage of. I paid for him. You know, all this stuff that she says, we're all like, yeah, you know what? I've either been there. I know someone that's been there.
Totally.
And she's so fun. And she's also an audience. She's kind of like, she's unapologetic to say, I kind of liked when they were fighting. And I kind of liked when it was seeing, you know?
And
also you're right, she's like Kathy
Hilton. Her two houses
oh
were,
my God.
One is for One is for just hosting people, and one is for, or maybe actually this might be from a preview for next week, from this week's episode. She has two houses. One is just for entertaining people, and one's for living in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good for her. Good for her. Yes, I like her. Bose.
Oh my God.
Great. Just what's not to love so far?
Yeah, all the awards. And you know what's really interesting is because we don't see a ton of Bose on the show necessarily.
No.
But the best place is watching her on the after shows.
Oh, yeah.
And she has to endure Dorit's incessant talking. And I mean, not that it's like, look, it's not just Dorit. Every season you've got your stars of the season, and they have to sit in the after shows with another person who's, and they're just set dressing, and they're just the backboard, and that happens. So like, you know, this season, like whoever Kyle is sitting with last season, and even this season, they're just sitting there listening to Kyle, and poor Bose is sitting there having to listen to Sutton. And I feel like she's subtly saying to her at some point, I mean, she's subtly saying to her now, I'm telling you, like at some point, I'm not going to be down with how the choices that you're making and the way that you're living. And so I'm going to say this really subtle thing right here just to see if you're listening.
And say I said
you're
it.
Not.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not, but okay.
That's such a good observation. Yeah. Bose is very smart. And so it's sort of like, I'm glad that she, you know, I think there's been this thing where like, it's like, oh, well, Dorit obviously latched on to the new one because she doesn't have the backstory. Dorit, she doesn't know what she's like. And so, of course, she just like friends with the new one when she has no other allies. And it's like, well, that kind of delegitimizes Bose in terms of like having her own agency and be able to pick her own friends. I think Bose, like, I think she clearly likes Dorit, and it's not like she's like sort of friends with her just because she has no other options. I think that she does like her. But you can see her maybe broadening her horizons as time goes on, you know, and maybe hitching herself to different wagons.
I think she will eventually. And I don't know why she did the show. She certainly doesn't need it. Why do you think she did this show? Is it to empower women? Because she's all about empowerment, and she does all these, you know, events and workshops. And I mean,
I think it's probably partially that. I think maybe it's in a similar way to Jennifer Tilly. It's like, you have all this money. You like being in the public eye. Why not? You know what I mean? She's and that's another reason why I think she works on Beverly Hills, is because she does not need this show. She does not need the paycheck. And sometimes that makes for the best person, where it's like, they're not relying on this show for like, you know, their income, you know, they're just doing it for like, whether it is to empower people or for vanity or for some combo of both, you know, she's just doing it kind of for fun, you know, and I think that makes it so, I don't know, she'd probably bring her authentic self to it, which is great.
My co-host Emily had mentioned that in many ways, Jenna Lyons could usher in a new level of women who are very successful in their own right and can legitimize a position on a show like this.
I totally agree.
And I think that, I don't know if that had any influence on Bose whatsoever, but I could see the connection, and as I never would have made that connection before. But she's right, because we haven't gotten many women in on these shows at the top of their game towards the end of their career, or in Bose's case, retired.
Right, exactly, which is incredible. Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, two more shows, Amy. The first is Potomac. We have Stacey, Kiarna, and Jazzy. Stacey and Kiarna are housewives, and Jazzy's a friend of. Oh, as a group, I like them being added to this show. It feels like it's fresh energy. It's there's something new and different in there. It's kind of revitalizing it, making the OGs sort of shake a little bit. You know, they're not just coming in and just sort of like being the sacrificial lambs. Like they're kind of holding fast into who they are. They're sharing their opinions, and I like that about them overall as a group.
I do too, and I think I thought Kiarna was like in her 20s because she looks so young.
She looks really young. Yeah, she does.
But she's not. I feel like I looked it up. I feel like she's like 38 maybe.
I think you're right.
I was shocked. I was like, oh my God. So at first I was like, it's so nice to have someone so young on the cast. It's his new fresh blood. However, it's also, now that I know how old she is, it's nice to know that she's more seasoned in her age. And I like where she is in her life, because this could really, like,
it could be
I feel like she's really poised to have a beginning to this. And I feel like it's going to be like 2 seconds and we're going to look back and be like, remember she was in that shirt working for
the
Greg?
polo shirt. Totally.
She, and now they're like separated and I don't know. They're not married, but I mean.
No, but it's like, I think one of the raps against her has been sort of like, why was she elevated from friend of to full time? You know what I mean? Like what has she really brought to the show so far? And I'm sort of like,
that we can't see.
Listen, that's one. And then two, I'm sort of like, as you said, there's a groundwork there. It's sort of like here she is moving in with this guy as she's joining a reality show, and it's telling to me that they left in his comments about like, because she came home and she's like, oh, 3 of the women in this group are getting divorced. And he's like, 3? Is it because of the show? And I think that them leaving in that comment about the show, which breaks the fourth wall, like really subtly.
Wow.
It's very interesting. And they left that in. You know what I mean?
Wow. That is such a good point. That went over my head. You know what I'm surprised that they left in? Those horrific bachelor plates that he has. Like the bachelor kitchen that he had. Those black dishes.
Like I know what you're talking about.
Classic black dishes that bachelors have, where it's just like, oh my God, she's living in this bachelor pad. She needs to fix this place.
She does. One dish at a time.
One dish at a time, Greg.
Yeah.
But I do like, he probably doesn't want to have anything to do with this. Yeah, and he's just a humble guy who's trying to help people. And I really like that.
Yeah, I know. And you have to think, you have to remember, Kiarna, she joined the show and then got into a huge fight. You know what I mean? So his hesitancy about it really makes sense in that way as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We forget that. And then there's Stacy, who like, beyond beautiful. She makes me laugh. Her confessionals are so good. This TJ thing is outrageous. Like she just is. She's such a good addition.
Yeah, there's like, she wins all the awards. She just like checks every box for me. This is the type of personality that I love on a show.
Yes, yeah.
And it's 100% her. And they struck a gold mine with her because she's not putting it on. She's genuinely like this. She talks like an anchor. She does. Is living in a different.
She's still on QVC. Yeah.
Yeah. She's living in a different world. And to see her world mix with these gals is like phenomenal.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And then Jazz, we haven't seen much of, but I like her energy. I like what she brings, but I feel like we need to hear more from her if we're going to really assess like what she brings to the show.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she has staying power. We'll see, because like she hasn't,
she hasn't popped off really. Yeah. All right. So lastly, we're ending on a high note. We have Bronwin and Britney.
Yes.
And to me at this point, with several episodes left of the season, I'm at a point where I'm like, even Britney, I'm like, I'm so glad you're there. Like she is such a. So let's start with Britney, because she's a.
I have an announcement. I'd like to just say that my mother called me this morning, and we're doing really well. And I just think that we should all celebrate that, because I hadn't talked to her in 2 days. Thank you.
And we were not aware that you had not talked in 2 days. So thank you for not updating us in between those two things. Yes, thank you.
And that's why we need to celebrate. Hello? That is why we need to celebrate. I mean,
anyway, let's go to dinner.
And then nobody cares, and I love it. Because they're not there. Like, it's so forced. Don't do that to us. It's forced. Don't do it. And it is really weird that she would talk about her daughter like that. Like,
I know.
It's clunky is the perfect word to say it. It's strange, and I'm worried. Like, it's so cryptic. My last marriage really traumatized them. And I'm like, this is not something you tink about. This sounds like we should not be hearing about this, especially in this situation. Maybe do it in a one-on-one,
Very much so. But I think back to the announcement she made at the ropes course, where she was like, we're Instagram official. And then Lisa pulls it up. She's like, babe, this is not Instagram official. You're sitting in a shopping cart at Costco, and he called you his best friend. So she just has no idea. But yes, we're doing our heart
hands. I mean, who does that? That's
to Jared Osmond. She is he's the gift that keeps on giving in many aspects.
And she inspired high body count care.
Completely.
Even though I did not like that her feelings were hurt and she was crying. I hated that. That was not nice at all. So I was not a fan of that. Let's be clear. Yeah. But I did laugh at the line.
And it's instantly iconic. So you know what? Sometimes you have to be a catalyst for something iconic. And you know.
Oh my God, she has like a deal coming through or something with Cara Stace. She said it out right. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. I hope that I hope that that's true.
I do too.
And the last
because she's making an announcement before it happens.
An announcement of an announcement, which classically goes well. No, and the last thing I'll say about Britney before we end on Bronwyn is people I think are like now kind of, they're in the Britney camp and they like her on the show, but I think some people are calling for her to be made full time. And I'm like, actually, I'm good with her as a friend. She feels like
you're right.
The perfect friend of, I don't always trust what she's telling us to be the truth. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's sort of like, I don't need another full-time housewife who is maybe not telling us the truth, a la like Mia or somebody like that, you know? So it's keep Britney as a friend of,
right.
You know, that's my opinion on it.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. And then Bronwyn, you said it feels like she's been around for 5 years.
Doesn't
Tell me more. Yeah, it does. It does.
Oh, well, Todd's not going to like this, but, well, it feels really good to be here. No, I love her so much. The fashion is just lights out. It's just something we've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, her messiness, she takes things like way too far. Like she needs to chill out. But at the same time, on this recent cast trip, she was attacked by a fucking dog. Crazy. So I'm like, no wonder she's kind of taking it to the next level. She's probably on steroids and probably a tetanus shot. So who knows what's coming out of her mouth? Like, give her a break. But I also still think that's part of her personality. So she just seems to know how to respond as a housewife, but do it completely unapologetically and authentically, be seriously messy. I think she can be super catty sometimes, which is okay with me. I think down the line, I think we're going to get annoyed with that at some point because it's going to get annoying if she's like, well, can't believe I'm friends with you guys over here.
Yeah.
And then says something mean and then goes back over here. So I think that will probably eventually get annoying. But in the meantime, it's weird to see her on a show with a guy she's married to who doesn't even know who she is. And she's showing us somebody that I'm like, have you guys met?
The Todd factor is really, I mean, I need a deep dive next season on what's going on there. Just with like, is it because of the show? Is it because she's becoming a different person during filming? Like, he seems to not recognize her, like you said, and it's sort of like, was he just not prepared for this? Like, I'm just so I'm confused, and it keeps happening too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm sort of like, are we even going to see Todd when Bronwyn comes back next season? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's no way he likes how he's coming across on the show. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then, she was sending him those text messages, remember?
Like live updates of the fight.
Yeah, like play-by-plays. And she was talking to him like she'd talk to you or me.
Right.
So I was like, how does he not know her? Look at it how she speaks.
There's a disconnect.
Why is she so surprised at like, I'm riding your dick was so surprising to him? I don't know. I'm very confused about this.
Yeah. But Bronwyn is really, I mean, talk about keeping the OGs on their toes. That's, I think, what she's done the best this season. I think that like the OGs came in after Monica as like this fearsome foursome who like had basically a pact. You know what I mean? It felt like it, but then that pact got blown up right away. And part of the reason for that was Bronwyn, who just like, she wasn't going to like take any sort of bullshit. She was just going to like call it like she sees it. She's not intimidated by any of them. And, but she also cares a lot about her friendship with Lisa and like clearly wants to try to maintain that. I don't think she has. She's what this group needed.
She single-handedly put Heather Gay in storage. Like Heather wasn't even on the trip.
Wild.
What world are we living in? We're coming off of the screenshots and the proof, and now Heather Gay is not on this cap. It is like blowing my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Heather just wants a break, and I don't blame her.
Right. Right. Well, Amy, that is our Bravo newbies class of 2024.
Oh,
clearly, we feel pretty good at it. Pretty good about it.
Yeah, Yes, we do. I love it. I'm so glad that we could work through that. It feels good to kind of like go through, assess and check off the boxes and feel like, look at the year we've had. This is great.
We're signing their diplomas. You know what I mean?
Bronwin Newport.
Sophomore season. I'd like to thank Todd.
I'd like to thank
Todd. Oh my God.
The Todd father.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, Amy, thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
When do new episodes of Drama Darling come out? Do your plugs before we sign off.
Come on over to Drama Darling anytime, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Public. And then I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and other episodes over on my Patreon. You can follow me on Meet Amy Phillips. I've got some videos up right now. So I do parodies and impressions. So I've got some fun stuff over there and another one coming soon. Holiday inspired.
One of the best in the game, truly. And every day that is impressive. It's
exhausting.
I aspire. Yes.
You're not every day. I thought you were.
No, I'm like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, well, you're just as you're there. You're there.
Oh my God, Amy, thank you again, and we'll do this again soon.
Thank you. Okay.
I want to gab.